everyone. Welcome to Wildlife Conversations. I am your host, Jen Ritchie, and I want to thank Robert's Camera for helping make this podcast possible. You can visit them at robertscamera.com, and you can use the Wildlife Conversations coupon code Jen Ritchie VIP, JENRITCHIE VIP, for a 10% discount on used photos and select accessories. I'm sorry, used camera gear and accessories. And you can talk to our exclusive contact there, Phil Gibson, and he can help you implement your vision with anything that you're dreaming of. He'll help you find the right gear. So I'm very thankful to Robert's Camera. And my guest tonight graduated from Utah State with a degree in wildlife ecology and management. She is a researcher, photographer, expedition leader, and biologist. Her work has taken her from southern Utah to Alaska, the Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem, Africa, and most recently, Brazil. She's an ambassador for Girls Who Click, mentoring aspiring young wildlife and conservation photographers from around the world. Her photography and research showcases conservation stories and shines a light on ethical photography and wildlife. She has recently transitioned to a more permanent home in Juneau, Alaska, and it's my pleasure to welcome Rylee Jensen. Hi, Rylee.
Hi, I'm so
Welcome.
excited.
Good. I'm excited too. We talked about this in a restaurant in February a long time ago. I got to see you, in Yellowstone. Met a bunch of people that night on a snow coach tour with Maureen Madsen and that whole group. And you had just completed, I think, like in those weeks, your master's degree, or had just finished like the thesis or something.
Yeah, that was
a lot of work.
That was like the last final push for my master's thesis. I had just barely submitted it to the school, all ready to go. So now I'm working on submitting it to a journal, or like my thesis chapters to journals. So that's like good. Just about done.
Yes, I live in a college town, and that's why I came here for that kind of stuff. My husband and I both came for grad work, and I remember those days.
Yeah.
All the hoops, all the tape, all the steps.
Totally.
Yeah, so I remember that, and so I'm really glad to meet you here again, and like get to know more of your story. It was too crowded for us to really get to talk that night, but I would love to hear more of your story, and I know so many people are tuning in tonight to hear your story too. So if you're here, please say hi in the chat. We already have people saying hi. Hi, Danny. Hi, Renee. Let's see who else. Amy is here. Neil, Brittany, Pamela, Mike. Thank you so much, everybody. What a great group. You can say hi to Rylee in the chat. and we're going to have a question and answer later like usual. So make sure that you save up your questions or put them in the Q&A box now while you're thinking about them. But Rylee, you started this love of photography as a teenager with a Canon Rebel T3i T3i or whatever. I think I had the 6. Yes, that's what I started with. So you said, though, you felt like a real wildlife photographer when the first time?
So the first moment that I can remember being like, oh, I can actually like do this for a while now, and maybe be good at it, was I did a college graduation trip to Kenya with my dad in 2019, and we saw so much crazy stuff there. Like, it was my first ever international trip, actually. And we went to the Masai Mara. We went to a place called Lake Nakuru, Lake Naivasha, Amboseli National Park. And so we were just seeing so much life and so many animals. And I got some pictures that I still really love today. And just getting to practice a bunch of different photography scenes and different subjects was the first moment that I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad I just barely upgraded my camera, and I really want to do something with this, whether that's selling prints or traveling around the world even more, or I didn't even really know at the time what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to keep doing wildlife photography.
Yeah, it's so interesting how that spark hits all of us. It's just there's something there that's like, I have to do this. I have to do this. But you had upgraded. What did you upgrade to at that point?
I had just bought, from the Canon Rebel T3i, I had upgraded to a Canon 80D, another DSLR. It had higher megapixels. And then I also at the same time bought a 100 to 400 millimeter lens
Yeah,
just to get that extra zoom.
that's great.
Somebody at Brooks Camp, I was working in Katmai and Brooks Camp at the time, and one of the gals at the lodge was showing me her lens and was like, "Oh yeah, I love this. I take this everywhere." And I got to like hold it, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, that's
yeah.
not so bad. Like, I could take this in the field."
Yeah,
So
isn't that funny how that really does matter? Like, just people letting you see like what the lenses are like and before you purchase, or I had someone do that with me with the 70 to 200, the 2.8,
mhm.
and like that was like, oh, this is what it could do. And like that
Yeah,
was so helpful. I remember the first time I rented a 400 2.8. I was like, oh my gosh, like I just didn't realize like how big it would be.
yeah, like it
Like so
requires its
excited.
own suitcase.
Yes, yes, it came in its own big box and everything. I'm like, okay, I was not picturing this because I shoot like what you do too now. You have the R5 now, right?
Yeah, I have an R5, and then
Yeah,
I just bought a 100 to 500 before
yeah,
the summer started. So
yeah,
that was my next upgrade.
yeah. I love that lens. It's so versatile and it's just so sharp and so good. I tried the 200 to 800 this summer.
Mhm.
And I really just would prefer the 100 to 500. I'm sure people have other opinions about that, but I think the 100 to 500 is just so good that I was like,
Yeah.
I think I'll just
I
go.
was actually really debating between, I think it's a 150 or a 100 to 300 2.8,
Yes, yes,
or the 100 to 500 because I
yeah,
couldn't decide whether I wanted like more reach or if I wanted
yeah,
that just like extra bokeh in the
yeah,
background. But I
yeah,
think I decided, especially for this like Brazil trip, I just wanted to like have that insurance of extra reach.
yeah.
But I
I
love
have,
the 500. It was awesome.
yeah, it is so good. And I've shot it so many different places and it always works well. And I've heard good things about it from other people too. And I've heard great things about that 300 2.8 too, but you know,
Mhm.
that's just another thing out there, another thing out there to
Yeah,
get. But I've heard it is good for Alaska and the bears. So
totally, totally.
yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah. So you're in Juneau now, but let's backtrack a little bit. So did you grow up in Utah?
Yeah, I grew up
Okay.
in Utah, like a little bit north of Salt Lake City,
Uh-huh.
and I grew up in the suburbs, but my
Yeah.
family started really getting outdoorsy and doing backpacking trips, and we would always go
Yeah.
camping every summer. So I think naturally I kind of just started taking a camera with me around these
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
especially southern Utah. I got really a lot more involved in that during my college years. So I went to Utah State
Hmm.
in Logan,
Yeah.
which was not too far from home, but then that also introduced me to a lot more places with my college classes, and just field trips and
Yeah.
trips I'd take with my friends. I just kind of got to see Utah from a whole new light. And that also introduced me to going to Yellowstone and the Tetons a lot more frequently.
Right.
And especially from a wildlife research lens, it was like the perfect opportunity to really just kind of fall in love with that place and want to keep coming back.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. You're like in the perfect spot. It does not take you long to get to a lot of great places.
Right. No, I think the Tetons was only like 4 hours away.
Yeah, I'm
So
so envious. Yeah, it takes me like 26 hours or something stupid.
yeah,
Takes
yeah, it's a lot
forever.
more of a trek.
Yeah, that's a long way. Yeah, and I've done it with like little kids and stuff. Yeah, it's not fun. It's worth it. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. And so then your love of that whole area started and expanded to Yellowstone and Tetons. And
Mhm,
so then you start guiding,
mhm.
right? In Yellowstone.
So, I started guiding in, the winter of 2021, 22, and that was kind of just because my job in Katmai National Park had ended, and I was kind of wanting to just explore different avenues apart from, like, working for the Park Service or working in, like, wildlife research specifically, because
Yeah.
that's what I had built my whole career towards.
Yeah.
I kinda just wanted to yeah, exactly, like, just explore other options and try to see these places from a new lens,
Yeah.
pun intended. But I, like, applied to a few different companies, and I was like, "I don't know, like, I don't have any guiding experience," but I knew a
Yeah.
lot about Yellowstone just from going there myself, and
Yeah.
luckily, I was able to do snow coach tours that winter, and it was,
Right.
like, a dream job. I was like, "Actually, I love guiding, and I love showing people this area, and I can combine my, like, research background and my photography into a guided trip," and it really just made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. That's perfect. It just seems like it helps you expand your toolbox. We talk a lot about how, you know, sometimes to make it in conservation or wildlife photography, you have to have so many different avenues. And it feels like I've heard you say on other things like that you wear many hats. And it feels like that you really have done that. You've really equipped yourself in so many different areas to be really well-rounded. That's what it feels like. And
Yeah,
so
it seems like I've lived a lot of different lives. But
yeah.
like I was saying on that other thing yesterday, like wildlife has always just kind of guided my decisions. And so
Yeah.
like I know no matter what I do, I always want to keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
So that's at least my one like focus in life.
Well, that's pretty cool that you have the one thing that focuses on. Susie Esterhaus said that too. If she had to pick wildlife or photography, it's wildlife because that is the kind of the North Star. And then
Yeah.
everything kind of follows that. That's pretty cool. So
Mhm.
2019, do you start guiding in Katmai, or is that your first time working there?
That was my first time working there.
Okay,
So it actually kind of
cool.
happened. It was like a happenstance job way that I got that job.
Mhm.
Like I had actually applied to it in the official National Park Service sense, but I didn't get it initially. And then my supervisor emailed me anyway, and she said, "Hey, like I know you didn't get this, but we have a brand new bridge that we built in camp, and we won't need someone to just kind of help man it and
Oh,
do like some bear behavior research to see how bears are reacting to the new bridge." And
yeah.
you'd get paid the same. You would just wear like a Katmai Conservancy uniform because you'd be working with them. And I was like, sign me up.
Yeah, sold.
Yeah, I want to do that. So I think that that was actually like the catalyst for my like Alaska guiding journey.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where I'd be without doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's hard not to fall in love with that area. I mean,
Mhm,
it's so gorgeous. And then so you got your guiding in Yellowstone, guiding in Alaska, and then when you're not guiding, you're getting
mhm,
your master's degree and you're also
yeah,
taking personal trips. So
mhm,
you just got I know you've gone to Banff and Jasper and Kootenai and those areas, which I love.
yeah,
And then you just got back from Brazil. Is that right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I so
Everybody's
fresh
going to Brazil.
it does kinda seem like right before my trip started there, I started seeing a lot more posts about it from, like,
Yeah.
people I follow on Instagram, and I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
guess everybody's, like, down there."
That's how Alaska feels too. It feels like Alaska and Brazil right now.
Yeah. But no, that was cool. I had just gotten off a season of guiding pretty consistently in Alaska last summer, and so
Yeah.
I had some, like, money, and I was like, "I wanna do a trip." I like, go to a place I haven't gone before, which
Yeah.
I actually haven't really revisited any countries I've seen before. I always like
Okay.
going somewhere new.
Yeah.
And Brazil had always been at the top of my list. So a friend actually was talking to me about how she went with a particular guide and she was like, you got to go with him. Like he's amazing. And so I just like inquired and booked it and it was really easy. And I had a great time. It was like probably one of the best wildlife trips I've ever done,
Oh,
to be
wow. And
honest.
that's a lot. That's a lot to say because you've gone
Yeah.
to a lot of places. Last summer, did you do an Asia trip last year? Last
Yeah,
summer?
I
Yeah,
did like
I'm
a
remembering that
personal
now.
Asia trip to I like backpacked Southeast Asia for a month, and I
Yes.
specifically didn't want it to be like photography focused. I kind of just wanted to
Yeah.
like a shift into like
Yeah.
we're just exploring, we're just gonna try
Yeah.
food and see some
And
cool
that
stuff.
that takes off some pressure too, a little bit of
Yeah,
pressure. Yeah.
yeah.
You
Which
don't
I
have to
think
get to
like
implement.
ironically is important for photographers too, like taking trips and specifically having it not be photography focused so
Yeah.
that you can come
Yeah.
back to it later on and have not have that like pressure and have some newfound passion
Yeah,
for it again.
that's true. It can sort of renew some creativity too. And yeah, that's right. That's good. Well, I don't, did you share a Brazil photo with me? It was the Cayman one from Brazil?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. Let's show that. I'm like, that has to be. I don't know where else it would be from exactly that you've told me about. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It is.
I probably took, like, up close to 10,000 pictures on this trip, so I haven't
Okay.
gone through all of them.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't even uploaded all of them yet,
Yes.
but I'm just
Yes.
kinda
I'm
going
still
through the
doing that
first
too.
couple days.
Yeah. And so tell us what you saw in Brazil. What are the main attractions there to go as a wildlife photographer?
So, I think obviously everybody wants to go down there and see jaguars,
Yeah.
because there's the place that we were in is called the Pantanal, and it's kind of like the Brooks Camp or like the Katmai. If Katmai is for bears, like the Pantanal is for jaguars,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very similar to when I'm bear guiding, where I'm like, oh, we know this bear, she's very chill, she's had cubs, blah blah, and down there they're like, this is Marcella, she's a 5 year old, her mom is
So interesting.
Patricia, like I might be getting that wrong, but
Yeah.
they all know them individually, so I love
Yeah.
that part of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also huge for viewing animals, like ethically, like you want to make sure like individuals that are shyer of boats are not going to be like spooked off, that kind of
That's true.
thing.
They know them. Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't just jaguars. We saw a ton of caimans everywhere. Like you would be going down a canal and there would just be eyes like in the water following you the whole way. There was caimans everywhere, which is why the jaguars are there. So it makes
Oh,
sense.
interesting. Yes,
Um,
yes.
and we also had a guy who was tracking the number of different bird species we saw on eBird, and I think he tallied like 104 or 100 different five bird species.
Wow, wow. And you said like, well, so we can talk about this later, but you said, and I've noticed this too in your like in your stories and stuff, that your love is bears, but birds are becoming an interest too. And so that would be a
Mhm.
great place to see all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, like, if when people think of the Amazon, I feel like a lot of times they think of bird life or wildlife, and it's true. Like that area is just so full
So
of
lush.
life,
Yeah.
like from
Yeah.
birds to caimans to fish. It's actually a really popular fishing spot too for locals. Like visited this fishing lodge to go to the bathroom, and I was like, I had no idea that people like sport fished down here.
Yeah. I didn't know that either. I didn't know that either. My husband has been, but I have not been. So I'm not familiar at all. So so you saw jaguars?
We
Uh,
saw, yeah, 17 different individuals, which
oh
I
my goodness.
expect in 6 days. So like
Oh my
the
gosh, that is
first
crazy.
the first couple days, he's our guide was like, we're gonna like stick with the crowd so you can get your first taste of jaguars, and we know we're gonna see these like specific individuals, and then we'll go off and kind of try to find our own jaguars to get away from the crowds and to try to show you some new cats. And everything he said just kind of like laid out perfectly. Like we took a new canal and we saw like four new individuals in a
Oh my
totally different
goodness.
territory, and then we came back and we saw the same like cast of characters each day. It was just like it was perfect.
It's so interesting to me, like even just visiting Vancouver Island this summer, just like we'd be out in the middle of this strait, this ocean, and like all these boats would be there too, and they knew the names of the whales, and they knew like who was driving each boat, and like there was the same kind of like, well, we don't want to make wildlife management upset. I'm like, it feels like every place has their own, like in the Tetons, like I'm like, this is exactly what happens in the Tetons. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows who's standing. Everybody knows the names of the bears. And that's what
Yep.
it sounds like on this trip too. Like there's a whole little community that's sort of built and
Oh
around
yeah,
animals.
it's so funny, like, yeah, the similarities that I could feel between like jaguar guiding in the Pantanal and
Yeah.
like Alaska bear guiding or like
Yeah.
Yellowstone guiding, especially.
Yeah.
Like managing like crowds and like giving animal space or
Yes.
like, you know, I don't know, just all of the above.
Yeah, there was even like we were just in a boat with three people, two of us and a guide, but like even in that we were like, oh, those people they're getting too close to the animals. Where's wildlife management? And it's like it's just like the Tetons. This is so weird.
Well,
Whales.
it's so interesting because down there, he was saying that there's no ranger presence. So it's really just the
Yeah,
guides like keeping each other in check, kind of, and they're
accountable.
all
Yeah,
communicating with each other over the radios.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's interesting being in a place where there's not like the presence of like, law enforcement or anything like that.
yeah. Did you find that people like behaved?
I would say for the most part, yeah. And it's just like a lot of like local operators who have been there for
Yeah,
years and years, like sometimes decades, and so they kind of know like where to go and what to do. I think it like everybody was pretty well behaved from what I saw. It's getting popular though, so there was
yeah,
definitely like a lot of
yes,
boats at some
yes.
encounters.
Which seems like
Um,
the case for a lot of places, you know?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's just kind of inevitable, I think, once places start blowing up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's a hard balance. It's a hard balance with what we do and like what we love and showing these places and then they become more popular. Like Instagram's doing that too. Um, but it sounds like, ethical photography is happening, hopefully most places, most places. But
Mhm.
you just recently got to this, I think this year, to work with Jocelyn Stokes, Wild and
Mhm.
Stokes, to do
Yeah,
a BBC feature. That was really cool.
that was
I'm so
probably one
proud
of
of
like
you.
thank you. That was one of the, like probably, like, the peak moments for me as a photographer,
Oh, I love
because
that.
they emailed me or they messaged me on Instagram about it first, like, the producers with BBC
Yeah.
Earth, and I thought it was a scam
I was
'cause
gonna
I'm
say,
like
did you think it was a scam? I totally would. I totally would.
yeah, I was like, "I don't know, like, this sounds weird."
Prove it. Prove you're
And then
real.
I looked up, like, that production company, and they were legit, so I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
"Oh, like, yes, let's do this."
That is
And then
so
working with
cool.
Jocelyn was just awesome, like, just
Yes.
being out in the field with her, she's so bubbly and like knows exactly what she's doing
Yeah.
with what angles she wants to get and everything. So it just kind of worked out really smoothly for me, and it was a lot of fun to do that. And then in the end, like see myself with like the BBC Earth logo but like below my face, like which is so weird and crazy.
It's so fun. It's so fun. And then so people can check that out on YouTube. It's on
Uh-huh.
BBC Earth. And then what's the other channel? BBC Earth something. I forget that.
I think it's BBC Earth and then BBC Earth Explore.
Yeah. And it's Jocelyn Wild and Stoked. She's on Instagram, Wild and Stoked. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to work with like a female director and like and just like that seems so cool that she's really showcasing you and just to see
Mhm.
a female wildlife photographer out there. That was really cool.
Yeah, she's
We'll just
killing
like
it with
that.
her own stuff too.
Yes, she
So
is. Yes.
I love seeing the project she's working on.
Yeah. So people check that out because Riley's really good in it and she takes you through Yellowstone and like her settings and what she's going to shoot for the day and like some of the reasoning behind it. So it's really good and great to see people that we know out there on on BBC Earth. That was so
Yeah.
cool. And so as you're doing these stories and working with people like that, how do people focus on their like their goal for photography? You've mentioned this before, I think, and had tips of this
Mhm.
before. Like, how do you know? Is it conservation? Is it journalism? Is it art? Is it just
Yeah.
portrait? Like, how do you know and how do you focus on that?
I think it kind of just depends. For me, I don't have like a solid focus of like what my photography is. Like
Yeah,
sometimes I do more portraits of animals,
yeah,
sometimes I try to do more like storytelling images in an intentional way, and then sometimes if I have the opportunity, I try to do more like photojournalistic esque pictures. And so it totally depends on the context too, but I would say like breaking them down, like the conservation or photojournalism type pictures. In my mind, I usually envision having some sort of human element into them. So I feel like oftentimes with photographers, like you try to take out the human element to show like natural spaces and wildlife behaving naturally. But I also think that incorporating pictures of people with animals can be really powerful too. So especially in a place like Yellowstone. One of the Girls Who Click ambassadors, Jessica Hadley, she does a really good job at this of showing human wildlife interactions on the road or just wildlife photographers or visitors to the park just off to the side, you know, photographing bison or something. And I think it really just adds much more context to a landscape and to an ecosystem that maybe people haven't visited before and they have this idea in their mind of what it is. But then it's like, you know, the Instagram versus reality kind of thing.
right.
But it doesn't necessarily always have to be like doom and gloom of like human wildlife interaction is always bad. Like sometimes it just shows a different side of
Yeah,
coexisting with wildlife.
absolutely.
And then portrait style, like I feel like that's kind of what I've started out doing with wildlife, just getting those like face shots of like a very pretty animal or like pretty fox, pretty bear,
Yeah,
and just getting that like soft background or just like having them pose in a particular way,
yeah,
which I still love doing with when given the opportunity.
yeah,
Um, and with storytelling images, I've also tried to incorporate more of the landscapes in my pictures
yeah,
in recent years too. So specifically with like Katmai, it's such a unique place where there's like volcanic forces and then there's salmon and bears and it all just kind of comes together to tell this story of this peninsula in Alaska. And so I think we'll pull up a picture of that later too, which I'll talk about in a minute.
yes.
But yeah, just kind of capturing behaviors, capturing the environment, capturing multiple species in a picture, I think is my favorite type of photography that I strive for. Again, it totally is just dependent on the context of where you're at, but I try to get all different elements when I'm
Let's go to your wolf photo with the
okay.
raven because that does like that was really beautiful photo and it also tells a story.
Yeah. So this one I took this past winter. This is a wolf from the Wapiti Pack in Yellowstone, and they were all on a carcass when we rolled up the morning of, which was insane. We were like one of the first people out there, and then there was like right away a wolf carcass.
Wow.
So we just spent like hours with them, like pretty much most of the day watching these wolves. And this picture, I was just following this wolf pup as it went back to join the pack. And then this was just a happy accident where this raven like flew into the shot and I just happened to get it and the wolf at the same time.
Yeah.
But it ended up being one of my favorite photos of the winter because of it looks like the wolf is kind of staring in the raven's direction.
It
So it
does.
looks
It
like
does.
there's that
Yeah.
relationship going on.
Yeah.
And then if you know
Perfect
anything
share.
about like, yeah, it's like, and it's balanced nicely. Like it just happens to be like a great shot. But then if you know anything about like wolf and raven ecology, like ravens follow wolves to carcasses. They just follow wolves in general because they hope that wolves will open up carcasses for them. And then ravens can alert lone wolves to carcasses if they're searching for food. They even have this GPS backpack program in the park where they put GPS backpacks on ravens to track if they're following the GPS collared wolves. Which a lot of the sometimes they are, sometimes they're just going to dump sites.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I like to share this image with that story and that context behind it too, which a
Yeah.
lot of people might not know about
Yeah.
initially.
It's so cool. Every time I see a raven, I'm always like, tell me what you know. What do you know today? What's going on in the park? Let me know. But even in your BBC Earth thing on YouTube, you do photograph one with a little backpack, the little
Mhm.
GPS backpack on. So I remember that. Yeah, that was cute. Um, I think, so many of us are learning photography and it's sort of stressful just when you're learning that sometimes it takes a little while to figure out your purpose or which direction you want to go. And sometimes it's many directions. Maybe it's all of them, like you were just saying. It depends on the time and the context. But I think as you grow, you start telling more of a story with your photography. And I think most of us have a purpose behind it. Like we want the wildlife to be protected and celebrated. So, and I think that's always good, but it is interesting. Like I think for me, myself, I do need to look more into like the goal of my photography and like, so I appreciate those tips. That's really good.
Mhm.
I was thinking of like Amy Vitale and like some of her work and like
Yeah.
past rhino and like even some of the other photographers that do like, you might be in a wildlife rehabilitation place taking photos, and those are all, like you said, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It can
Yeah.
be sometimes how they're healing an animal and rehabilitating an animal, and all those
Mhm.
stories need to be told too. So it's so cool just how many pictures come out of this genre.
Yeah, and I think, like, some images are meant to be told with a story behind them too, so it's like, it give out of context, like, that rhino photo, like, people might not know what's going on with that, but then when you get the context of, like, poaching and, like, wildlife conservation and the rangers down there protecting rhinos, like, it adds just so much more depth to the image.
Yes, it does. It's so powerful. And so now you've moved, you're going to have lots more stories to tell because you're transitioning to Juneau, Alaska. And so you're
Mhm.
kind of starting with all this background, this foundation, but it's kind of like you get to start not new, but you're going to build a lot more now on this whole like scaffold that you've built already. So
Yeah.
what do you think? How is this going to change your photography, do you think?
I think it'll actually be, um, different for me because so often, like, for the past 10 years of my life, I've been used to, like, Alaska bears in the summer and
Yeah,
then, like, Yellowstone in the winter or just kind of swip swapping there, and
moving
so
around. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think being in one place through all 4 seasons of the year is gonna be really exciting and challenging because, um, Juneau, like, if you're out on the water in the summertime, there's humpback whales, in the wintertime, I haven't spent a winter here yet, so I think it'll be fun to try to see different photography opportunities as they present themselves here.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it'll just be a chance for me to like look smaller and kind of find little hidden details and hidden opportunities here that might not just be as obvious as like bears and whales.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. So it does sound like you have sort of like a project in mind, like the four seasons. I mean, and then smaller and textured and intimate scenes. That's pretty cool, along with the
Yeah,
big
along with the
too.
yeah, like being in the Tongass, I think, is actually such a good lesson in seeing large and small because there's such there's towering trees above you everywhere, and then you can see like misty clouds going through the trees, and it's a great like large landscape shot. But then when you're walking through the forest, there's microscopic, lichen and fungi and moss on the rocks that all just kind of uh, paint a bigger picture of how these smaller processes contribute to the larger image of, you know, a forest like this.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I felt that too when we were in Vancouver Island and then also in Olympic National Park. It was like, oh wow, like this the moss and the huge trees and like this fog and just the same thing where it was small to the mighty, you know.
Hmm.
So this is Juneau, and you wrote such a beautiful description of Juneau, Denali, and Katmai in your questionnaire to me that I was like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. So you're gonna have to describe these places to us the way you did because it's beautiful. So Juneau, this area of Alaska, is like what?
It's so Juneau, it sits right in the middle of the Tongass National Forest, which is such a, if you're looking at it from a photography perspective, it's such a like moody, mystical, beautiful, like fairy tale-esque
Mhm.
land. And I was blown away when I first came up here because I hadn't really spent a lot of time in Pacific Northwest forests like this before.
Mhm.
And this just like took it to a whole nother level. So just taking like the dog out on a typical like neighborhood walk, you get scenes like this. It's crazy.
That is
So
crazy.
there's just like a feeling of like reverence here that I feel like is not something you can achieve a lot of places, which is a big part of what actually drew me to living in Juneau is just the like scenery right outside your backyard here.
Yeah, it was so cool. Yeah, I have not been to Juneau. So like just your description, I was like, I need to learn more about Alaska because
Yeah.
I don't know these different areas. And then we have Denali.
Hmm.
Oh
And
my,
I like when I tell people about Alaska, it's hard to describe it in just like one kind of descriptive sentence because
right.
it's like you're in a totally different world in different places you go in Alaska. So I went to Denali in 2021 with my family in the fall. So right about now actually is just past peak fall
Yeah.
colors in Denali. So it looks like this and it's super orange and red and there's caribou on the landscape and just like magnificent mountains in the distance.
Mhm.
When we went too, they say that like 30% of people who visit Denali actually get to see the mountain itself.
Yeah.
And my family had just booked like one day on the road. And so I was like, you know, we may not see it. We just have one day in September. So it's probably going to be rainy. But then the clouds parted and it was super
Oh,
blue. And we got to see the
yay.
mountain in the distance. So that was really, really special.
That is so
Um,
cool.
being in the tundra like this, it just is a totally different mindset too, because I feel like when you're in the Tongass National Forest and you're in a rainforest, it feels so closed in on you and you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
feel kind of like wrapped in the forest like a hug. And
Yes.
then on the tundra, it's just so wide open and everything's a lot simpler. So I feel like you have time to kind of just like let your mind wander a little bit. I
Yeah.
got some experiences like this when I was in Katmai's backcountry, which does have some tundra out there too. So you just kind of get to take everything in and just sit with it a lot more rather than like, you know, moss and rocks and trees and eagles and ravens everywhere
Yes.
all around you.
Yes. That's where we went to Vancouver Island, the northern side of it. It was you could not see through the forest at all. So it was like this, it was just so first of all hard for wildlife photography because you couldn't see anything. Like the elk would just like go through the bushes and disappear. Like pop in and like it would envelop them, you know? And so, and like the bears too. So it was just so hard to scout and spot, but you did feel that feeling like you're just surrounded like in this magical forest with moss covering the trees. And so, yeah, I kind of picture it like that. But Denali's on my bucket list for sure. But then Katmai has some of the similar feel. I mean, that's why the bears, they can see a really long distance. They can see you and like you don't surprise them and in most places. But like
Yeah, like
picture.
bear guiding in the sedge meadows of Katmai versus some of the rainforest spots
Yeah.
in Southeast Alaska is very different
Yes.
because you have to be more like aware or like walk slower in your surroundings in the rainforest, whereas in the sedge meadow, you still, you know, have to be very intentional and slow and respectful with where you're going,
Yeah.
but you can see the bears like
Yes.
out there in the meadow. So it's kind of a mix of both, I guess I would say. So you
Yeah.
have the wide open field, bears can see each other. It's a good congregation spot for them, and so they don't have to um, move around so cautiously. And actually, that's what I was trained as a bear guide with is stepping, making your steps very intentional and moving very slowly, like slower than you think you need to go, because that's how bears themselves move around the landscape. They don't want to run into each other either, so they just
Oh, that's
are
interesting.
very, you know, deliberate with where they're going, which I found very interesting. But yeah, Katmai also has, you know, towering mountains and glaciers and sedge meadows. It's just a like very Alaska-esque place
Yeah.
when people think of that Alaska in their minds.
It seems like a little paradise.
Mhm.
That's what it seems like to me. Like it's like a little utopia. The bears aren't scared of you and you're not scared of them. And it's like you're not, and it's just like, is this a different world? Like it feels like a different world. It's just
Yeah.
so, I mean, you're of course you're being cautious and you have a bear guide with you and you're being very, very respectful. But
Mhm.
it's still like they don't even care that I'm here. It's so it's so weird. It's so amazing. It really is.
Yeah. They'll walk right past you, and as long as there's food for them and there's salmon, they just kind of see you as another creature on the landscape that's just, like, sitting all together.
Yeah, yeah, it's so amazing. And like you said, like your favorite are bears, and you've worked with them in Yellowstone and Grand Tetons and here in Alaska and Katmai. So tell
Mhm.
us why they're your favorite. It's not hard. It's your favorite.
They're just great.
They're just
But
great, everybody. They're just great. We're gonna make t-shirts. Bears are great.
I probably have T-shirts like that somewhere. Um, but no, I think bears are a great reflection of people ourselves. So when you're out there viewing bears, like if you've never seen them for the first time and you're out there for multiple days, of course there's like that initial like I want to get a bear like fishing, I want to get a bear standing like this, I want to
Yeah,
get bears like roaring at each other, and like you will get those action shots, but then there comes a point where like when I'm with my guests and everybody's kind of like gotten over the initial like excitement of seeing bears initially, then everybody kind of just calms down and you're just watching bears just like live their day to day. And usually, most of the time, that 90% of the time, they're just like munching on sedge or just patrolling the riverbanks, and they're not confrontational with each other and they don't want to, you know, run into each other. They're just very kind of peaceful animals once they've got what everything that they need to survive. So then it's easy to just sit back and just kind of have like nice spiritual moments with bears where you're
so
just
true.
absorbing this true raw nature around you, but it doesn't all have to be just like action all the time. Like sometimes bears just kind of bring you back to your core and realize that, you know, this is how it should be.
That's a really good way to put it. It really is. It's just so peaceful to sit there and you're sitting and you're coexisting. And
Hmm.
at some points you're like, we're walking by a bear that's like, 25 yards away and you sort of forget you're supposed to be scared,
Yeah.
because you've just been coexisting all week. And like
Hmm.
and they're happy and they like we had a mom bring her triplets right to us and it's just things like that. It is kind of a spiritual moment. It's so emotional and like just we were all so full of gratitude for those small intimate moments and just to like be able to hear them eating, like the
Hmm.
crunching, that to me was just like sometimes, I mean, of course you want the action shots, but it's those little things where like I can hear a bear eating. Like
Yeah, or even just, like, breathing or, like, I think,
yeah.
my moment when I first started working in Katmai was hearing them run past my cabin, and you could like, their footsteps just sound like thunder right outside your door, and I'm like, "These are just huge, big animals," but they're
Yes,
just, like,
yes.
playing with each other like dogs would.
Yeah, that's so true. And like sleeping and stretching and all of that. It was so,
Mhm.
so, so cute. But I think that another thing that surprised me was the hum, like the motor hum of them nursing. I was
Mhm.
like, I did not expect that to happen. I would that kind of like that is what I think sort of like shook me and made me start crying was just because it was like every sense, all your senses were awakened to every part of it. It was
Yeah,
just so cool.
that
So
little, like, purr that the cubs do when they're nursing.
yes, yes. It was like so there were three, so it was like this huge motor. But do you have like particular ways you would advise people to go to Katmai to see the bears? What would be I mean, if people have a moderate physical like ability or fitness ability, do you have a favorite
Yeah.
way to go?
I would say, there's a lot of different methods you can use to get to Katmai.
Mhm.
I still always just recommend Brooks Camp to people because it is very accessible if you have like more limited mobility.
That's very
It's just
true.
kind of a flat path all the way up to the falls, so you can spend a whole day there and still see like 25 bears. And it's just a really good introduction to bears themselves in a very semi-controlled environment with
Yeah.
rangers and people. So I always recommend Brooks Camp either way. If you can stay overnight there, I think that's best. But I also understand that it's really difficult to do that with the, lodging reservations just filling up really fast. But I also recommend people taking, day trips out to the coast from Homer or King Salmon. There's plenty of outfitters out there and pilots that'll be more than happy to take you for the day. Or if you can find a longer overnight trip. So like, for example, I work for Natural Habitat Adventures and they do overnights in Lake Clark and Katmai National Park. So if you could do a trip with a big company, if you don't want to, organize a lot of different details down to a T, but, then there's also guides like Seiler that go out there and they're really, they know exactly what they're doing. It's really nice and intimate to just kind of have one guide with you the whole time and learn from them and see the bears from the ground level while somebody knows them and knows their behavior. So I think I would always recommend like going with a guide first and foremost, just because you're just going to get so much better of an experience that way. And I think come away with a lot of knowledge, but then a lot of really close, beautiful encounters that were like facilitated by a guide and not just you kind of like trying to figure it all out yourself.
Can people just go by themselves? Can you just fly there? Is it?
I've seen people do it.
Really?
I wouldn't recommend going by yourself to the
No, I would not either. I wouldn't either.
There's just so much like logistics you have to keep in mind, like with safety and food and keeping your camp like bear free. It's a lot for one person.
Just the weather. My goodness, it changes so quickly, and the wind and everything. Yeah, I would not want to be in communications and all of that. I would not want to be without a guide at all. But what would you say about Yellowstone if people want to go in the winter? As you have so much experience in winter in Yellowstone, and so what are the best ways to do Yellowstone in the winter? I mean, I know that's very limited how you can do it, but
I would say so first and foremost, like prepare for cold. And like a lot of people, I feel like some places I visited, they're like, oh, it's not like that cold. You don't need that much. But my coldest tour in winter this year was negative 46 degrees Fahrenheit. So like, it's no joke. Please bring socks and gloves and boots. There's certain boot brands you can get that have different insulation levels. And so I think one that I had was like 300 G of insulation. I don't know, but just kind of do your research on gear and make sure that you're comfortable in it and that you're going to be warm in it. Bring hand warmers. Second, I would also say
rechargeable.
Yeah. Those are really helpful.
Yeah.
And then second, I would say do your research prior also to make sure that you're going to go where you want to go. If you're doing a snow coach tour, it's maybe not as difficult for that because you only take one route and then you come back home. But if you're going to the northern range in Yellowstone, you don't want to stay in Cody, Wyoming. Like you want to be in Gardner or Cook City and then plan out your day. It's a 2.2 million acre park. So getting from one end of the park to the other can take a long, long time. So if you want to be right in Lamar Valley for sunrise, like maybe it's best to stay in Cook City. Or if you want to go see the elk bugling in Mammoth, maybe you want to stay in Gardner, which is like pretty close by. So just doing your research in that regard too, because I've heard some people like book their trip to Yellowstone and it's like, we're staying in Cody. And I'm like, but you're going to be there in March. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it is very limited in the ways you can do it. And you have to know those ways. You can't go into the park from West Yellowstone unless you have a snow coach or a snowmobile, so you have to know what you're doing. Yeah. Because even being on the snow coach, I'd be like, well, tomorrow I could. And then I'm like, no, tomorrow I can't. I don't have the snow coach. You can't just drive in. So it's like you want those extra days, but they have to be planned out. They have to be really planned out in like public snow coach or private. And
and then the third thing I would say too is try not to get tunnel vision on finding bears and wolves, because I know that's what a lot of people want to see when they go to Yellowstone, but most of the time it's just going to be by chance that you like come across a bear or a wolf. So I would just say keep an open mind about seeing other animals in the park, because Yellowstone is so full of life. It's like the Brazil of North America. So I really enjoy looking for weasels and different bird species and badgers, like maybe not so much in the winter, but when you're going on a winter tour or if you're just patrolling the winter roads by yourself too, I think it's the best time to look for animals because you have this blank white canvas. So I'd say like, don't be afraid to just kind of step off the road and do some trails or just kind of take it slower without getting hyper fixated on like getting that wolf shot, you
Yeah,
know?
I think it's the same all year round, even when you're in the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone in the summer, spring, fall. It's like I think people get so fixated on the bears, and I'm like, but the pelicans are like on the snake right now, and I'm making beautiful images of them. They're so charismatic. Or like, there's a fox, or there's a badger or something. And I really like finding all that other little stuff. Of course, it's fun to see the bears, but isn't it called like the Little Serengeti? Isn't Yellowstone called that? And it's like
Yeah.
you can tell why. It's just like
Yeah,
there's
like
so
there's
much.
7 different ungulate species, and they're all doing their own things each time of the winter. There's tons of different weasel species. Like I actually stopped a whole like snow coach because there was a weasel running across the road, and I was like,
Absolutely.
guys, we have to get out of the coach. Like this is super rare.
Yes, I have only seen one pop up at me and then disappear. I don't have a single image, not a single image of one. I know.
I
It's
got
like, come
incredibly
on.
like this picture after going there for years and years. This was the
Yes,
first time I got an ermine picture,
yes,
so that
yes.
was pretty exciting.
Like everybody out now.
Yeah, please.
So cool.
You don't
And don't they
understand.
make like really interesting tracks? Like, isn't it like an exclamation point or something? Like a hot dog almost?
Yeah, it because they jump through the snow
Yeah.
sometimes, and so their belly brushes against the top of the snow, and so it's like
Yeah.
track, belly. So it looks like an
Um,
exclamation point.
that's cool. That's very cool. I'm still learning my tracking, but I'm trying. I'm trying. It's hard in Indiana to learn tracking.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
not,
I'm sure.
it's not much. Like, okay, deer, bird,
Deer, dogs.
fun, dogs. Yes. I'm always wishful. Like coyote? No, dog. It's a dog. Well, I know a lot of people will be going this winter, and so those are really good tips. And we
Mhm.
even had children on our snow coach, and so like if you take kids, you need to make sure you have their snow stuff with them because they were jumping out of the coach into the snow piles and stuff. So just make
Yeah.
sure because it is cold and windy and changes quickly. So
Mhm.
make sure
Yeah,
that
that's something too, is like the weather can change on a dime. So every time I go there, no matter what the season is, I'm always bringing a puffy, a rain jacket, and then just layers
yeah,
because you just
lots of
never know
layers.
what you're gonna run into.
Yeah. Well, that's really good advice. So if you have questions for Rylee, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box, and then we can ask her those in a second. So we talked a little bit about ethical photography, but so speaking of Yellowstone, I was going to ask you this and the many types of animals you see in the winter. I know one of the ethical dilemmas we had was in Cook City. Do you know
Mhm.
that you pass the house as you're going into town?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
And we found ourselves with owners that were feeding foxes dog food. And
Mhm.
so we did leave. I did take photos and then a few photos because one was right next to me. I went up the hill and kind of just like, I don't want to be a part of this. Went up the hill and was photographing some kind of jay, a stellar jay, I think. And a fox was right next to me. And I looked down the hill at the house and they were getting out dog food. They had pulled
Yeah,
up
yes.
getting out dog food. So there are, even when you're out in Yellowstone, outside of Yellowstone, you still have some ethical dilemmas and ethical practices you need to follow. So do you have
Mhm.
advice for your clients when you're touring them?
I think especially if you're going someplace you haven't been before. So like that was like me with like going to Brazil. I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I was going with an ethical guide. And of course, like on everybody's website, they're gonna say they're like the best and that they do everything correctly and that they're ethical. But what I found is really helpful is just talking to people, like on Instagram, for example, if they've gone to a place that you're interested before
Yeah.
and or if they've gone with a particular guide that you've been thinking about, like maybe just reaching out to them and asking them about their experience, because I feel like more often than not your close, friends or other photographers are going to tell you like the reality of that tour and like what went on there.
Yeah.
So that's how I found is like the best way to really gauge
Yeah.
how like ethical a certain like photo group is or a certain guide. um but I feel like everybody does, strive to do their best, like out in
Yeah.
the field. Certain situations happen, like inevitably. But sometimes that's what I also choose about like what I post online too. So a lot of the times in Yellowstone, if I'm out there just by myself and I am taking pictures of an animal from my car, but there's like, I don't know, sometimes like zoom optics make it look like I'm 10 feet away from a moose or something like
Yeah.
that, even if I'm in my car and everything's, done legally and whatnot. Like sometimes I just won't post certain things because I don't want people getting like the wrong impression that they can do that too, and like they can do it on foot, and like they don't know that I was in a car. But either that, or I'll post like a stipulation of like I was in a car or we were in a boat or something like that,
Yes, that's a good
just so
point.
people aren't like just running wild with it, because that's just what the nature of Instagram these days.
So true. So true. And it does cause like some unethical behavior to get the shot. You know, they want
Mhm.
that shot. So they're getting too close. I was thinking about that as we're approaching rut and how crazy people can get. Just some of the
Yeah,
behavior I've seen in the last couple of years of people interrupting behavior and standing in the middle of the rut in between two elk. And like, it's like they just,
yeah.
sometimes your
Well,
brain just kind of leaves you or something.
and I think it's too, it's just like when you're in the field in an encounter with an animal, sometimes it feels a lot different than just, reading a brochure that says to stay 25 yards away, because especially in the rut, you like, I often stay much further away
Right.
because
Right.
25 yards is very close.
Yes.
And so I think every now and then too, just like putting the camera down and kind of gauging the situation and looking at how the animal is responding to you and responding to other people, and just kind of doing just like a quick reevaluation of like, okay, do I feel good about this? Is the animal stressed out right now? Should I move? And just kind of
Yeah.
every once in a while, just doing a quick check with yourself to make sure that you're still, doing what you should be.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point to check in with yourself every few minutes to like, is everything okay? Keeping aware. And so that gives you an out. So that gives you an out every 5 to 15 minutes when you're checking in. That gives you a chance to check yourself and you have a way out. Like, okay, I'm too close. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do. I think in the Tetons, I stay close to my car during the elk rut or in the car because they will
Mhm.
run. And it's just like, it's so hormone it's so hormone ramped up that
Yeah.
I'd rather just be close to my
Mhm.
car.
Same.
Definitely been yelled at before to get out of my car, and like it's just so strange, such strange behavior. But
Mhm.
yeah, those are really good tips. And then I think what we were saying is like sometimes people just do let the pressure get to you to get that good shot. And so do you have advice about social media and like getting that shot
So
and all of that?
I Yeah, like, I always just whenever I'm choosing what to post, I'm always comparing, like, my progress as a photographer and the shots that I like to my own portfolio. Like, I try not to compare my pics to other people. So it's like, you can
Yeah,
draw inspiration from other people for sure, but and say like, "Yeah, maybe I wanna get that, like, behavior one day," but I'm always just gauging, like, how like, I'm doing bigger and better things by just looking at my own portfolio over the years.
that's a
And I
good
think that
point.
kind of helps me keep my vision focused on like not giving into like social media pressures of like maybe I should change my editing style even though that's not what I'm used to, or like maybe I should like post this picture that I know people are going to really like, but I like this other picture that has a good story behind it that I know maybe not might not get as many clicks. Like I do that a lot where I just like to post my own personal favorites rather than like the one that I know is going to be like the
Yeah,
Instagram favorite.
yeah, that's so true.
But I'm also like horrendous at posting consistently. So I would say like don't like if it's just not if you're not trying to like have a goal with your photography and you're just doing it for fun or you're just doing it for yourself. I've still gotten a lot of really incredible opportunities like that have
Yes.
come my way over the years like this, that have come from, not following the like social media like norms or rules
Yeah,
you could say.
yeah.
So I think
Following
just
your
like
gut.
just sticking to what feels good to you.
Yeah, I love that. I think looking back at your own portfolio and just finding your growth. That's what I've tried to always think is like, I really just want to grow. And am I growing? That would be my question every year is, am I growing? And so that's a
Mhm.
good question too, for in terms of thinking of it with social media instead of, I feel like I've calmed down the last couple of years and I think, you just kind of get sick of it. Like there's no way I can keep up with this thing. It's just way
Yeah.
more important to me to have a place for my work and then have
Mhm.
a place for community to meet people like you and all these great people. And to focus on that part of it is so much more rewarding to me than like how many likes did I get? That is exhausting. It's just like
Yeah,
you can't
absolutely.
ever win. But
Even
like
just
you
like a
said,
small
yeah, like you said, you're getting great opportunities. BBC Earth is contacting you.
Yeah, I was like, "How did you guys find me? I've been in grad school for 2 years."
That is so cool. I think I would have been just like in shock.
Yeah, it was
I
like
love
the
it.
surrealness of it didn't really hit me until after like the episode came out, and I was like, now I can sort
Like
of think of
millions of views.
yeah.
See, that's what's so cool is like it's your hard work, all
Mhm.
the education that you have and all the time in the field that you have. You know how to work with animals, you know how to work with clients, and like it pays off. That whole thing, that well-roundedness, that they recognize that, and so many people do recognize that too, Rylee. So that's
Well,
really
thank you.
cool. Well, tell me if you have any questions, everybody, in the Q&A, and then if you do, I don't see any in the chat either, but people are saying thank you for the tips for planning a trip.
Oh, good.
So we do a speed round. I don't know if you looked at the questions beforehand.
A couple of them, yeah.
But so it's just for fun, and you don't have to be too speedy. You can think about it. But I always ask people, what's in your camera bag that you can't do without?
Well, obviously, apart from like the camera and lenses,
Yes.
I have this little black lens brush that I got with my first ever camera kit. It just came
Yes.
with it, and it has a little like squeegee that you can just kind of brush around your lens. But then it has an actual brush with tendrils like this long,
Yeah.
so you can brush off dust. And
That's
it's the
nice.
size of a pen, so I just carry it with me wherever I go, especially if you're gonna be outside at all, it's inevitable that you're gonna get like dust in your screen. So I just like to have it on hand to like pull out of my pocket and just clean it every once in a
Yep.
while.
That's nice. That's good. I think that came with my Rebel. Did it come with your Rebel?
Hmm.
I think I have that too. Yeah, I need to go like grab that and get that back out.
It's
And then
great. I might get a second one.
yeah, yeah. And then what's in your camera bag that you bought but you never use? It's like one of those things.
Um, a couple years ago, I bought this strap that goes onto a backpack that you can rest your lens on, so it's not just like swinging from your neck. I also have like two different harnesses that are supposed to hold your lens steady
Yeah,
with you. And I really should be using them more often because it's
yeah,
heavy and you don't want to like get, neck and back problems from holding a lens for so many years, but
yeah.
I just haven't used them a lot. Like, I'm just whenever I'm in the field, I'm just, like, holding it, and I wanna, like, be ready to go and
I
not have to,
know,
like,
that's the
with it.
thing. Yeah.
But Peak Design does make a really good backpack clip that is easy to, like, take off if people are consistently, hiking with backpacks and they wanna keep a big lens on them, but don't wanna, like, carry it in your hands the whole time.
Okay, that's a
So
good
I
tip,
should be
everybody.
using it, but yeah.
Yeah, so Peak Design and a backpack clip.
Mhm,
A lot of people have suggested Peak Design stuff on here. Like Peak
mhm.
Design travel tripod, and then the slider strap. A lot of people like that too. So yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
Peak Design, are you listening? Just kidding.
Hey.
Actually, I need something because I'm carrying that my lens on a monopod. And so
Mhm.
it's like changing my hair back here. Like
Oh, jeez.
it's cutting out, like it's getting a V. So I had to go get a haircut. And she's like, what have you been doing back here? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like ripping my hair out.
You're like, "That's the monopod look."
Yeah, it's called the monopod. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a new trend.
it started that
Okay.
trend.
Okay, the favorite snack while editing or driving around to look for wildlife.
Oh, I had some of these the other day. I forgot what they're called, but they're like these little yogurt balls, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
so, you can, like, freeze them, and it just feels like you're eating candy, but it's just yogurt, and it's
Ooh.
just really nice to have in the field as, like, a little sugary treat.
Yeah, I didn't think about freezing those. That's cool. Are you a coffee or tea person or soda or
Oh, yeah.
you're a
I need
coffee person, right?
Yeah, I need to have my
Yeah,
coffee in the field, or if I, like even if I'm getting up at 4 AM, I still just go get gas station coffee, like, I
I
just have to have
know.
it, and it's a good way to just kinda start the day and, like, get amped up.
I know. I'm not a coffee person, but I totally am like a hot tea from a gas station person. It's like it's just there's something about the cold and like getting
Yeah,
that, I just love that feeling. I think we have a
especially
question.
in cold.
Yes. Mike asks, what time of year is considered spring in Yellowstone? And what might you see then? That's a really good question, Mike. Thank you.
That is a good question because technically, spring begins in April, but it's still very snowy in the park in April,
Yeah.
so I would say, like, May and June really start to feel like spring. That's when you start to see bear cubs come out, bison calves are being born, and the elk don't really have their fawns until later, but May is definitely one of my favorite times of year to be in the park because there's a bunch of wildflowers everywhere, or like greenery that's starting to come up. And then all of these baby animals are starting to like emerge. So it starts to feel like Yellowstone's waking back up again. And yeah, I would say consistently that happens in May.
Yeah, yeah. And then more wildflowers in June, right?
Yeah, I guess
Like
I take that back. More wildflowers in like July and August. So
okay,
especially if you go
okay.
up to areas like Dunraven Pass, it's the one of the highest like elevation parts of the park that you can drive, and there's always just consistently like daisies and
Oh,
Indian brushes and uh yeah, all sorts of
so
flowers
beautiful.
up there. It's
I still
gorgeous.
need to do Beartooth Pass. I haven't done that yet, but it's a goal to go up there and do the flowers and the goats and everything. I haven't done that. I'm
Mhm.
always in the park way too early, like May, and so there's just no, I can't. So,
Yeah.
but I am so used to going Rocky Mountain National Park for many years that I get spoiled because the elk, the babies are born a little sooner, and so
Oh yeah.
so you get to see all
See,
the babies.
I haven't really gotten a good photo of an elk calf yet because I'm always in the park usually in like May, June, or September
Yeah,
and winter obviously, but the elk
yeah,
are usually born in like late June it seems.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always miss that timing every year.
Yeah, it's so sweet in Rocky Mountain because you'll get up early in the morning and like go to a lake or something. It'll be just you and like a few moms and they're like little nursery with a few
Oh,
laid down. It's so sweet. Or like in a meadow all together prancing around. It's so sweet. So then I just forget in the Tetons, like, oh yeah, it's a little later. I mean,
yeah.
sometimes you get a glimpse, but yeah, it's a little bit later. So,
Mhm.
um, what is who is or what is your favorite photographer, book, artist, inspiration? Do you have someone or of something?
I've been reading the book Gathering Moss recently.
I've heard
Kind
about
of
it.
going back to like the Tongass being just like
Yes.
blanketed with moss everywhere. It's a really good book to read out here specifically.
Yeah.
But it's written by an author named Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she also wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, which is one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah.
And she talks about a lot of indigenous perspectives related to plants, especially, but just having a different worldview wherever you go. And she talks a lot about a lot of Ojibwe and Anishinaabe stories where she's from. So it's just a really eye-opening book and really just kind of changes your whole perspective about seeing the world in a different way.
Yeah.
So I always recommend Robin Wall Kimmerer. And I also really love Terry Tempest Williams. She's a
Hmm.
Utah author,
Okay.
and she wrote books like Red, Refuge, and um, mainly so Refuge is one that I read while I was in the Katmai backcountry, and she ties a lot of that story into her personal life and like her connection to the land. Oh, Hour of Land is another good book by Terry Tempest Williams.
Okay.
But she's
I've
a
never heard of
poet
her.
and she just says things so eloquently, so I always love
Oh,
reading
I
her
love
stuff.
that. Oh, I had heard of the other two, so I'm glad to hear of this author. I'm glad because I always am looking for things like that. Many times I'll go on like thrift books and kind of like just make a pile of photography books or those kinds of books to get and just read maybe over the winter or whatever. So that
Yeah.
I'll add that to my list. That's good.
Mhm.
It's really good. And then what wildlife experience most touched your soul or your emotions? What made you feel the most? There's probably a lot.
Um, I actually there was this moment in so I think like the obvious answer would be like anytime I'm with bears, but because I just love having that level of trust with them.
Yeah.
But also I found this really unexpectedly soulful moment with a short-tailed weasel in Katmai. So I was there for a research trip and we were there for 11 days. And, you know, when you're in the backcountry, sometimes you just have moments where you're just a little stressed out or you're just kind of like over it and you just want
Yeah.
to like have a change of scenery. But so there was this one afternoon that I was kind of just having like a like high anxiety day, and I just went to go like sit in the tundra by myself. And this I don't even know if it was a baby or an adult, but this really small weasel just came up to me and was just like sniffing my fingertips and like jumping all around me.
Oh my
And I didn't have my
goodness.
camera with me. I just watched it and it was just really entertaining and it made me feel better. And
Oh
so then
my
I went back.
goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was so cute, and then I went back and, like, did get my camera and got some photos of it, but then I didn't really take a lot, because I just wanted to have this, like, personal moment with this weasel, so
Yeah,
I think that was more of, like, an overall broad moment to me of, like, nature will provide what you need, even,
absolutely.
emotional well-being and just kind of an
Absolutely.
escape from whatever you're dealing with at the moment.
Yes, so many times, so many times. Yes. Do you think it was just comfortable with you because it hadn't seen a lot of humans, or what do you think? Or just
Maybe.
it could have been just it
That's
was
why
a special moment. It knew.
that's why I was like, maybe it was, like, a juvenile and it hadn't really, yeah, experienced humans yet, and was just like, "What
Yeah,
are you?" Like, just
curious. Yeah, that's so cool. But it was just exactly what you needed. I love that. I love that. So I've heard that many times on this podcast too, of things like that
Mhm.
happening. And I know it's happened for me too. So you've got this new move, you've got a whole like next whole year to soak in Juneau. And but do you have any other plans for 2025, 2026? What's happening in your world?
I really don't have a lot of upcoming plans, like, which is weird because I'm very used to just living my life by, like, every 6 months, like, what is my
Yes.
next goal?
Yes.
But now I'm kind of starting to just plan for just being here in Juneau rather than, like, planning a next, like, big trip or something, but, I
Mhm.
mean, my ears are always open to, opportunities that come up, so, like,
Yes.
maybe I'll be in Botswana next year, maybe I'll
I know.
be doing something else, so,
I know. I feel the
um
same. I feel the same. So I
yeah, it's a little bit
can't
of a
wait.
change. I'm trying to focus, like, some of my jobs right now on, like, Juneau specific,
Mhm.
uh, things, but obviously, I always wanna come back to bears, I always wanna come back to guiding, so I
Yeah.
am doing a Nat Hab trip in Yellowstone this next week, so I'm excited to get back there and see the elk rut and, um, just kind of see the fall there again
Oh,
and
yeah.
just reunite with everything.
Yeah, there and your knowledge is so vast that when I think of you, I think of Yellowstone. So I'm sure that will always be a part of you. But
Oh, absolutely.
even these times of change and like not knowing what's going to happen, sometimes those times are hard to sit in it, but you learn a lot about yourself, in the waiting and in the change. So that'll be really interesting to see kind of what you learn about yourself and like where you're going next. You have so much ahead of you. So
Yeah.
it's so fun to see that. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rylee, for being on with me. It's been really good. It went really fast. I could talk a lot
Oh,
longer. I could talk a lot longer. But tell people where they can find you. Where can they find your work?
So mainly I'm most active on Instagram. So my handle is Rylee_J_photo.
Mhm.
I also have a website that I need to update, but it's
I just was
called
thinking of mine today too. I need to too. Uh,
that one's RyleyJPhoto.com.
mhm.
I'm also technically have a Facebook page, but I'm not as active on there, Rylee
Yeah,
Jensen Photography.
yeah,
And then YouTube, I think eventually I would like to start posting some videos on
yeah.
YouTube, just like make some short videos to have on and add to my repertoire. But I do have those BBC episodes on YouTube if you want
Yes,
to look at
everyone
those.
check those out. And I'll put those in the link to our description in the description under in our YouTube and the Apple and Spotify descriptions too, because I want people to check those out. They're really, really good. And then do you sell prints? If
Yeah,
people
I
like
have
a
an
print?
Etsy page, so
Okay.
that's also, under the same Rylee J Photo.
Okay.
And yeah, if you wanna buy some prints from me, I'd really appreciate it,
Yes, I
especially, like,
know. Please
going into
support.
Christmas.
Yes, support Rylee. Buy Christmas or holiday presents for people, and
Yeah.
or any time of the year. And then also, you just did a webinar with Nat Hab, and that you just did
Mhm.
2 days ago, and that was really good. Tell everybody what that is, and they can go look for that too.
Yeah, so I just did, so NatHab has this daily webinar series called Daily Dose of Nature, and so if you just search that in YouTube, you can see all of their archive videos. So I just did one called Secrets of Alaska's Tongass: Life in the World's Largest Temperate Rainforest.
Yes.
So that should be posted on their YouTube either today or tomorrow,
It's
but yeah,
there.
feel
It's
free
there.
to
Yep.
oh, it is? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's already there. Yeah, I was watching it and I need to finish it. I didn't even know they had that, so I was glad that you told me about that so that I can go
Mhm.
and
I've
use it
also
as a
done some
resource.
other yeah, I've done some other webinars with them, like camera chats and
Mhm.
photographing Yellowstone through the seasons. So you
Yeah.
can look for me on like that channel scrolling down too.
Yeah. And you're on Girls Who Click too. I've seen you on with the Girls Who Click.
Yeah.
You're everywhere, Rylee.
I just have my hands in a bunch of different
I just had Susie on a couple weeks ago, and she's just so inspiring to
Yeah.
me.
I
Wow.
love that community so much. Like,
Oh
I
my
haven't
goodness.
unfortunately been as active with it this year, but they're all so talented and I've learned a lot from them. So Girls
Yeah.
Who Click is also a really great resource to check out.
Yes. I know I told her when I first started, like in 2017, 18, I was looking at that. I'm like, wait, why isn't there like people in their 40s who can click? I'm like, I feel like I'm a young photographer. And I was
Yeah.
like, but she's like, I know if we had more funding, we would do that. It's a lot to run a nonprofit. So, and she's doing such amazing things. You all are. So it's so cool. So cool.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Rylee. It's been so good. I just love hearing your story, and I'm looking forward to all the great things you're going to do. You're so equipped to do that. So it's going to be fun to watch what you do over the next few years, and especially as you're digging some roots in Juneau and see how that works. And so please say thank you to Rylee in the comments, and make sure that you look for Amy Ames is on next week, September 16th at 8 p.m. So make sure you look for that registration link. That is in the links in my bio and at Jen L. Ritchie on Instagram and Wildlife Conversations Podcast on Instagram. You can find this podcast on YouTube under my name, Jen Ritchie Photography, and also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. And if you'd like to support this podcast, there's also a link in my bio to do that. But I want to thank Robert's Camera again for supporting this podcast and all that they do. And I want to thank you, Rylee, for being on. And I hope our paths cross again, or we can shoot together sometime. It would be really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me on here. This was really fun.
I loved it. I loved it. You were on my list for a long time, so I'm glad we did it. Okay. Thanks so much, Rylee. And thank you everybody for joining me. I know you have lots to do, but thanks so much for joining for another episode. So we'll see you on the next one. Bye, Rylee.
Bye.
Bye.